Of course, it's Seahawks week. It's the 49ers and the Seahawks coming up this weekend. Michael, we appreciate you for joining us. Man, is Seattle still riding high off that emotional win on Monday night?
The answer to your question, no. But real quick, last name is pronounced Dugar. Just want to throw that out there before we get started.
My mistake. That's much more. I knew it had to be something a little bit more exotic than Duggar.
Yeah.
Dugar sounds much better.
But to answer your question, no, they moved on. And that's life in the NFL, really, and mostly in football in general, man. If you dwell too much in the past, somebody in the present is gonna knock you into the past again. And that's kind of how violent this sport is. So they were very happy on Monday. They probably told each other when they say 1, 2, 3 break is go celebrate with your people, with your lady, with your family, whoever it is. When you get back to work Tuesday, or make sure you take care of your body Tuesday. By Wednesday, you're right back at it. Special teams meeting at 6 a.m. or whatever. So while Monday was fun, they know that the Niners don't care how fun Monday was. They still probably upset about playing in a monsoon on Sunday. So I think that they've kind of washed that away. And I think that's what's helpful about having veterans, in the building who can tell you, like, look, dog, that was great on Monday, but the Niners don't give a damn about that.
Michael, help me understand, because we've been trying to figure this out for much of yesterday and while watching the broadcast. What the hell was all that about in Seattle? Everybody hated Russell Wilson, whether it was the fans, whether it was ex-players, and the media out there. I'm looking at it from here as a guy that used to routinely have Russell Wilson to stomp on the 49ers' hearts all the time and bring Seattle their only championship in franchise history. And it's like, man, I know he might have asked for a trade or whatever, but 100% of people out there just were ready for war against Russell Wilson on Monday. What was that all about?
Well, there's two parts to it. One of them is he plays for the other team, right? They could really care less about your resume if you're actively trying to make their team lose. Like, that's the fan side of it. And that's kind of when I just lean towards agreeing with, because it makes sense. Like, who cares how many touchdowns you threw here if you're actively trying to throw more against us right now? So that's the first part, at least from the fans. On the part of, like, former players, you saw Richard Sherman tweet a little bit after the game and during the game, and Doug Baldwin and a bunch of other veterans were there, Cliff Averill, KJ Wright, Marshawn Lynch. The reason that those guys have kind of come back and created what feels like a college environment, alumni returning to campus, is because of how you framed that question just now. It was that Russell Wilson stomped on the 49ers. It was that Russell Wilson brought this city a championship. Richard Sherman was right there eating a turkey leg on national TV during that Thanksgiving game where the Seahawks smoked the Niners too, It wasn't just that Russell was there eating a turkey leg with whoever the person was on TV, Like, it was not just Russ. It was not, just Russ that beat the 49ers. It wasn't Russ that scored 43 points in the Super Bowl, right? Like, he threw a couple touchdowns, but they quite literally scored in every phase of the game. They scored a safety, a kickoff return, and a pick six in the Super Bowl, right? It wasn't just that Russ threw for 5 touchdowns. So I think that, and I'm not saying you're wrong for framing it that way. I'm just saying that's a good example of why so many people are like, all right, cool, the Russ thing was fine, but, like, he wasn't the team. He was part of the team. He was not the team. And I think seeing Pete Carroll beat him was like vindication or validation for a lot of those guys who used to play here, on top of it being validation for perhaps the head coach as well.
How sustainable do you think that performance we saw? I think the Geno Smith story is tremendous, and they told it very, very well on television. But how sustainable is that type of performance that he had, where he was, the yardage was, relatively low, but he was super efficient?
I actually think it's fairly sustainable relative to how much pressure is in his face. That's most quarterbacks, right? You go look at their PFF grades or next gen stats or whatever, and then most guys are pretty much fine when they're not pressured, and then most guys turn into scrubs when they get pressured, with those few of the greats notwithstanding, Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Justin Herbert, guys like that, Josh Allen as well. But when Geno isn't really pressured that much, he's a really efficient quarterback. Like, the last time he started a game for the Seahawks was week 8 against Jacksonville last season. And I believe he started 14 for 14 in that game. In the preseason, he should have started, I think, like 10 for 10 against the Steelers. He had 3 drops, and he should have started like 6 for 6 against Dallas. I want to say in his final preseason games this year, like, he puts the ball where it needs to be. And if there's a risky throw that he needs to make, he probably just won't make it. and his completion percentage will be pretty sound in that regard. So, I mean, I don't think Geno's going to start every game 13 of 13 like he just did on Monday. But if you just ask me, can he still be efficient? Yeah. Will he throw 80% completion every week? No. But I don't think he'll be a guy who's hovering in the high 50s this year. I think he's going to be more in the high 60s for the season.
Mm-hmm. On the other side of the ball, Michael, Jamal Adams goes down with the probably a season-ending injury. Off the top of my head, just looking at it from a ways away, that's the best defensive player on the team that Seattle had. I ask you 2 parts, is that accurate? And how is that going to impact what they're trying to do on the defensive end?
No, I don't think that's accurate. I think Quandre Diggs is probably the best defensive player on the team. He honestly might be the best player on the team, irregardless of position. I think second place would be Jamal, and then Al Woods, their big old nose tackle there in the middle. Like, I think what Al does really goes unnoticed. And if any San Francisco fans want to go notice it, go watch the game last year up here in Seattle and go watch Al Woods just destroying the run while basically playing like strong side defensive end. Like, Al's a big dude. I do think that just in terms of losing Jamal, it's pretty impactful because he can just do a little bit of everything. He can play deep, as a deep safety. He can play basically linebacker. He can rush the passer, as he showed on the play he got hurt on. It was basically him taking down Russell Wilson, and that's when he basically blew out his quadricep tendon. Mm-hmm. So that's tough to replace, So I think how that's going to impact them is maybe some of their blitz packages that they usually practice. I don't know what day of the week, maybe Friday. Maybe they have to tweak those, because you don't have 33, out there. Jamal's a really good athlete too, and probably one of the better ones on the team. So replacing just his athleticism, just how much ball he's seen, being, I think this is like year 6 for him. Like, some of that stuff is going to be tough. But they do like Josh Jones, who they have, who was taking like 30-something picks after Jamal in the same draft. So he's also seen a lot of ball. Not the same athlete, but also pretty versatile. Can play deep half, as a safety, and can, play near the line of scrimmage. So it's a blow to their defense for sure. But they're not like totally dead without Jamal.
Michael, everyone in the football stratosphere has a take on Trey Lance. Have you had a chance to watch any of that game on Sunday against the Chicago Bears? Or are you already one of the many people who are convinced, they blew it with Trey Lance, time to put Jimmy Garoppolo back in?
Yeah, I watched the whole game on Sunday in real time too. It was really, really yucky. Every NFC North team should play in a dome, man. I don't know what Green Bay and Chicago are thinking, having like just open air stadiums. They are tripping. But I actually thought Trey Lance should have started last year from the jump. I really think that I'm of the opinion that if you invest a certain amount into a quarterback as a rookie, knowing how valuable a star quarterback can be on a rookie deal, I think you're obligated to play him if the guy in front of him is undoubtedly not your future, right? So they knew Jimmy G wasn't the future because they traded the house to basically find his replacement. So I just think there's so much value, and I'm sure Trey has talked about it, is when you are the QB1 in OTAs, when you're the QB1 that's on their mind when they're drafting other players, like linemen or receivers or tight ends or running backs. You're the QB1 in training camp. You're the QB1 in the preseason. You're the QB1 in all the meetings. You get all the starting reps. All that stuff matters, So to just throw a guy in week 4 against the Seahawks because Jimmy got hurt and expect him to just go ball, that's a totally different, thing. Same thing with Justin Fields last year, sitting behind Andy Dalton, Tua Tagovailoa sitting behind Fitzpatrick. Hell, even Patrick Mahomes sitting behind Alex Smith. Mm-hmm. I just don't see a lot of value. And I mean, Deshaun Watson didn't even start week 1, right? In favor of like Tom Savage or something stupid like that.
Well, at least for half. Yeah.
Justin Herbert, Justin Herbert didn't start because of Tyrod freaking Taylor. So I just really don't think that there's any value in benching those guys when the guy ahead of them isn't the future. So I'm on the Trey Lance bandwagon for now until I see otherwise. I think he can be the future there. I think he can do all the same stuff Jimmy G does and also let it rip downfield too.
Man, a sensible take on Trey Lance. You don't get those too often, man. I think Michael's one of us.
Yeah, Michael was in trouble with me for a second because he brought up that damn Thanksgiving night game, eating the turkey on the field. I was about to say, hold on, Michael, settle down. But no, you good now. You good.
He's about to call you Duggar after that. After you bring him up to circulate, he's about to start calling you Duggar after that. Bring up those bad memories, man. Kenny don't forget nothing. Great stuff, Michael. We hope to talk to you again when these two play later in the season, man. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. You guys have a good one.
Take care.
All right,
bro.
you too now, man. That's